So a very good morning to our community. It's a real pleasure to bring our next webinar with the team. So if I just quickly introduce ourselves again. So I'll be sort of hosting this webinar, and really good to see you've arrived, Neil and James. I want to say just quickly a warm welcome to our community.
Yeah, hello everybody.
Hi everyone.
Brilliant. Yeah. So together, what we're going to try and do today is to bring our community up to date with progress in this last month. It's incredible to think a whole month's passed since we last said something. So we'll bring you up to date with what's been happening, some of the challenges where we really would like to invite you to help out and be part of what we're doing, our journey. Also like to say some of the events that are coming up. And I'll ask James to say what's going to be happening in this next month, and then we'll go over some of the sort of next steps for the future. So in terms of where progress so far, perhaps I can bring you in here, James.
Yeah. So I think the stage we're at the moment is we're still in this idea generation process at the moment, and just making sure that we've got all our ducks in a row, so to speak, so that we're on track and we can actually deliver what we want to achieve. I think we'll talk more on this later, but we're really looking for our input and talent at the moment, particularly on the tech side of things. So that's kind of where we're at the moment with that.
Excellent. Yeah. Neil, anything to add at all about what you've been up to over the last month?
Yeah, I think the main thing is that, as we said in the last webinar, we already have Kiwi, which we've been operating as within the charity sector, and a lot of the lessons that coming through that is obviously impacting some of the roadmap that me and James have been talking about in terms of what are the kind of things that we need to tokenize, basically. So I think the challenge I have been focusing on is really what is it that we need to tokenize, and also then, to be honest with you, is that how do you do that so that we can put that into a workflow, which we can then communicate to hopefully the other side of the coin, which is the kind of the technical architect that we're looking for, which again, one of my perceptions, which was wrong, was that we thought that those kind of things is got to be residing in UK and looking at some of the things in the marketplace. For example, your stack, one of the guys, the Airdrop and whatever, their technical architect is in States, basically. So I think kind of learning process from our point of view that actually we were limiting ourselves within what we know again, and we're kind of opening that net out, and very much I'm kind of approaching it from a point of view of more commercial and that business side of things, and James is really focused on the kind of the community, the tech community or whatever, and we're trying to reach out between us to all these networks that are out there to actually say, this is who we are, this is what we are looking for, and we are hopefully this month is quite interesting because we've got some movement on that, which again James will talk about in terms of some of the events and so forth. We're
brilliant, great, good, and maybe I could just bring you and our listeners up to speed with. It's interesting actually, while you've been working away on the scenes on the commercial side and the tech side, the last couple of weeks I've been actually almost seeing where or what the problem is that we're trying to solve to a certain extent, actually, or one of the problems. And so if I could perhaps just say a little bit, so as part of some of my work, I've been actually out in South Africa on a project called Project Zulu, working with the University of the West of England, who take students out to a township region of South Africa. And it was almost first-hand experience of just why we need this platform, this Giving Nation platform, because you've got this situation where there's a need for that we're doing, in this case, some charitable work in South Africa, where there's fundraising going on in the UK by students. They want an easy way of being able to to give money. The money then sort of goes in various ways through to to the schools or the people at that end. They in turn then have got to go and buy materials to perhaps in this case to install a water harvesting system. The local material, or the people in the local village where you want to buy supplies from. I mean, you could buy it from a big supermarket in the town, but to actually, you'd love the money to be going to the community. Of course, the community are not really geared to provide receipts for the aggregate you buy, and of course the local people, perhaps they don't have cash, and it's incredibly messy, the whole process of physically transferring money from a donor to actually seeing it going into a cause and being realized, and then providing the information back to all involved as to how the money's been spent. You can just see it's actually quite a nightmare. So it really was first-hand experience of just why we've got to get this thing in place. Yeah, I thought it'd be interesting just to share with you. I mean, I'm not going to talk about it long today, but what it did for me is it really underlined or made it very real. Just at some point when we bring our tech people, as James said, and we'll talk more later on, when we bring talent in, I hope we'll be able to really help to visualize what is the problem that they need to solve. And this is just one example of it, and there's countless ones. But I think up until now, I think it had been for me a little bit theoretical what it was that we were trying to do. And now I can realize, if I was to, once the tech people come on board, you can sort of talk them through the whole workflow with a lot more conviction as to who all the stakeholders are, what information is it they need.
I think this is, John, just to reiterate, this is a lot more relevant to a huge amount of the international kind of NGOs and so forth, because you're talking about going into, unless you've done it and unless you've been on the ground, the concept of some of the things you talk about, you can't compute, because all of those things don't exist in most of the Western world, basically. But the Western world is where a lot of the funding comes from for these NGOs, and they are looking for the other side, which is that a lot more now foundations and trusts and so forth are looking for real transparency, but not just transparency, trust, basically, to say, okay, how do I trust that I've given X amount of money, and yes, 70-80% should have got to the actual end, but actually understand that in that workflow, in some cases it's 100%, in some cases it might be only 50%. So as an example, we're doing something again in water harvesting in India, where we've got something that's come along for handicapped kids. So that the cost of doing something for handicapped kids from a central cost point of view is a bit higher than actually would be in a normal donation. So putting this into a smart contract, putting this into a blockchain will have a huge, I believe, a huge impact in people giving more, purely because they got absolute saying, I'm interested in that, but I know that only 70% of my money will get there because there's this cost of doing this for this particular community, basically, which is different to doing it for normal able people and so forth. So I think you can drill it down to where it needs to be, as well as transparency and so forth. So I think very much, that's part of what we need to be able to communicate on the technology side of things to build, which I think is going to be tough, but I think blockchain is there to resolve that, basically.
Absolutely.
Brilliant. No, thank you. That's great. So I know we've got a lot to get through, so I'll keep moving on. But that was just a bit of a hopefully of interest. So challenges. James, what would you say has been some of the key things where we, you talked about a need for talent.
Yeah.
What do we need help with?
Yeah, I think at the moment we're at the stage where our internal tech resources are stretched in terms of where we're at with Givey and extending that into the Givey Nation project. So we're Neil and I have been doing a lot of brainstorming, if you like, about how this is all gonna work, and we're conscious we don't want to overpromise, in terms of where we're at now, and not be able to deliver that. So that's kind of where we're at the moment in terms of challenges.
Sure. Thank you.
Well, that's a nice segue into the airdrop.
Yeah. Because we've been saying a little bit about that, and that's obviously a milestone. And we're very much excited about this. But let's see. So on that front, then, what's needed to be put in place?
Yeah, so it's a segue really from the same thing. So we're still on track as we've listed in our roadmap for a Q4 airdrop. A couple more things have come into the pot, I suppose, which is we initially planned to do the airdrop with the Genesis snapshot of the EOS blockchain. I read an article recently that I think the number of EOS accounts now has increased by about 250,000. So there's potentially a lot more EOS token holders now, individuals involved in EOS, than there were back on the 1st of June. So that's one consideration that we need to take into account in terms of, our distribution may be significantly broader than we initially thought, which is actually a good thing, because it means more people are going to be able to get hold of our tokens, which is obviously good, and hopefully that will translate into more people using our platform when it does go live. The other thing, again, tying into what I just said regarding the tech side of things, is we are conscious we don't want to just plow ahead and do this airdrop and then find that we're not hitting our milestones due to internal resources. So that's kind of where that sits at the moment. And I think if I just go on to the next slide as well, wanted. So if anyone, we're looking for tech people, basically,
Right.
blockchain developers, anyone really, if you'd like to get in touch with us, we'll put our contact links, social media links in the description of this video as well. Which also leads on to the next slide, which is some events. So I'll personally be at the EOS London meetup, which is on the 5th of September, which is next week. I think Neil and I will both be at the EOS Hackathon in London, which is on the 22nd and the 23rd. And also Blockchain Live, which is on the 26th. So I'll definitely be in attendance to that. I think Neil may be. So we'll put links to get in touch with me or us in general. But I will be around at these aforementioned events. So that's the EOS Hackathon in London on the 22nd, and on next week, the EOS London meetup.
I think they are one of the block producers for EOS. Yeah.
Yes, which is hosted by EOS 42, who are a London-based block producer for EOS. Yeah.
So I think it'd be quite good, and I think the founder of the people who built EOS, the platform, are going to be at the live.
Yeah.
Whatever.
So that's at Blockchain Live. So that's Dan Larimer and Brendan Blummer are speaking there. Yeah. So that will be.
There's a lot of things happening in September, which is kind of ramping up to us being able to kind of also get a gauge on some of the tokenization stroke marketing stroke the tech side of things that we're talking about, whatever,
Yeah.
We're looking for people who also join us as on a kind of a advisory basis as well, to ensure that we are on track from the community, basically, in terms of the product roadmap, as well as obviously some of the areas of commercialization and so forth from that point of view. So I think it's a combination of those things, which is where we are at the moment, basically, in terms of the scenario.
It's going to be really, I'm already looking forward to the 1st of October's webinar, guys.
Yeah.
Like September is going to be a really significant month for the team. I can see you smiling, Neil. That's
It's going to be sheer hard graft, month of September. So it's great to say all these events and so forth. But as people know, as James knows as well, that we've still got operationally a business to run. I mean, in terms of Givi or whatever, which is not relevant here, but it will be relevant for Givi Nation because we are launching Givi in Spain, basically.
Yeah. So more on that to follow. And sorry, Neil, I cut you off. I was going to say we'll hopefully perhaps we'll do a separate video on the Givi Europe stuff separate from this, if anyone is interested in that, and we'll put a link to that in the links below.
That in October or whatever.
Yeah.
On that. So I think all in all, I think it's kind of exciting, hard work and whatever. But September is always a busy time, basically. So yeah, a lot on, and I look forward to talking to everyone 1st of October.
Oh, that's good. So we're nearly at the end now, I believe, gentlemen. In terms of next steps, we've already talking about that now. So,
yeah.
Cool.
Anything else that we've not said or would like to bring people up to date with?
No, I think that's it. Just again, I'll be at the EOS London meetup on Wednesday, and Neil and I at the EOS Hackathon on the 22nd, 23rd.
Yeah.
And I'll definitely be at Blockchain Live on the 26th.
Brilliant. And those are the ways they can
knock on the door and share.
There's get in touch with us there. We've got. I'll put an email link as well in the video description. But yeah, hit us up on Telegram and we will respond.
Brilliant. Well, thank you very much, everybody. For Neil, you're about to say something, or are you good?
No. I was just saying, everyone have a good month.
Yeah, absolutely. Have a good month. Yeah, have a good month, and we look forward to reconnect again in 1st of October or around then.
Yep.
Around there. Okay.
Great.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Cheers, guys. Yeah.
Bye.
Bye-bye.